Okay, we're doing this again. Because I got nervous and messed it up too much the last time. So let's do it again. Okay, hi, my name is Kat, and I'm making this video that is going to be mostly part of the Daucus Carota series. So, but this is just the context information. So, both the two previous videos were mostly okay. I found this information, I want to confirm it, which is the first video, and then the second video is me saying, okay, I don't actually think that the first association with purity and wisdom is right. I think it has more to do with fertility and motherhood, and this is why. So it was I guess a rebuttal. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly. Okay, it's fine. And then this video is mostly just going to be okay. This is information that I used to reach those conclusions. Yeah, that's pretty much the video itself. And then the last video of this series is going to be the tangents, which is me doing research like the little curious human being that I am. I went on certain tangents and found information that I thought, oh, this is actually pretty interesting. I really like it, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the topic of the conversation that I was attempting to have. So I just looked at it and noted it down, and sometimes investigated a little further, and then remembered this has absolutely nothing to do with what I thought, with what I was attempting to do, but it was interesting, so you know. Either way, I don't really think I need further information on the Daucus Carota itself. I think the plant, I gave enough information for it in the videos, and at this point it would be just rehashing okay the information that I already gave. So I'm just gonna put that aside, and we're gonna go with lace. So some context information for the lace, and some context information for the Victorian era. So we're gonna go with lace first, mostly because it's just shorter, and chronologically speaking, the information I found it. The information I found kind of the history goes a little further back, so we're gonna go with that first. And I sorry get distracted. I'm recording on my phone, and my sister is sending me text because apparently she sent me an audio and I couldn't really hear what she was saying. I just understood parts of it, so I was a little confused, and I just tried to piece it together without the context and answered her, and then apparently I had no clue what I was answering, and she's like, what are you even talking about? And I'm curious what she actually meant, so but it's fine. Either way, let's talk about lace. Okay, first thing we need to know is lace, as we know, or as we picture in our heads when we think about it today, is not necessarily the lace that existed before the 16th century. So before the 16th century, what people thought of as lace was simply the cords that were uniting two pieces of a garment. So for example, you had this piece of my jacket or my hoodie or whatever you want to call it, and then you have this piece of my garment, and if we had a cord here uniting it, that would be lace, because it's lacing both parts together, right? But as lace was, I guess, evolving, we start getting the lace that we think about of today, and the first lace, or the first city that was associated with this kind of lace that we know of today, was Venice. Again, I don't know how to pronounce Venice in English. Venice? Also, in Spanish, Venice. Okay, I'm just gonna say it that way, Venice. Venice. Venezia. I can't even speak my mother tongue now. Okay, Venezia. So, uh, lace was very heavily associated with the Catholic Church because it was used mainly before it was popularized by the Catholic Church in as part of vestments in ritual ceremonies. So there is that association, right, of lace with religion and sacred rituals. Now, once it starts getting popularized, it starts spreading. Now it's in fashion. Now everybody wants it. So it becomes just following economic demand, right? There is demand. Now we want to accommodate it. We want to offer it. What starts happening because of this is that it's a career that is more in line of what a woman would be, let's say, able to do, right? There's this idea that the woman needs to stay home and you can do it from your house. It's not physical labor. So because it's in very high demand, many women become lace makers. And part of this is because high-born ladies want their own lace. And part of being able to have lace is having people that are, to make it cheaper, I guess, or more affordable, is to have people that are able to do it in your space or nearby. I guess not in the castle. You're not going to invite them to the castle. You're a high-born lady. Okay, you have, snobbish. Okay, I'm not here to drop it. Leave it at that. Okay, so because there's this very high demand, and there started there's, it's not like they sprout into being, but uh, the ladies start creating lace schools. So village girls can go to this lace school that are being founded by noble women, and so they take these children from as young as the ages of 5, and originally you can take both genders, right? But lace making starts becoming this feminine work. So what happens is that young boys tend to stay in this lace school working and learning. It's a little bit like an internship. The awful conditions, but they stay there until they start becoming older and more able to do not housework, I don't know why I said that, to make it to the physical work, physical labor, and then they leave it and start concentrating on men's work. And this is a very interesting point, a point in lace history. I found it very fascinating because it's a time where finding work as a woman wasn't really that easy, but you could do lace work. You could learn it and you could sell it, and that affords a certain level of, I don't know if independence is the right word, but it does give you a certain level of a tool of survival. Let's call it that way. So because you're a lace maker, before you're married, you're able to be less of a burden, which sounds so awful, but that's the worst thing I found in the family, in the sense that now you can help save for your own dowry, but not only that, you could also help the expenses of the household, so you're less of a extra mouth to feed with nothing to contribute, which is an awful way to say it, but if you're not really allowed to work in in other ways, I don't like it. I really don't like it. It makes me feel uncomfortable. But and then also in the case of already having a husband and you have your children, it's a little bit of extra work that you can do on the side of your wifely duties, I guess, for your duties as a woman of the household of that time. Then you can make your own little bit of extra money for helping out with expenses and whatever the kids need, etc., etc. And then if you end up being a widow, then you have the problem at the time where being a widow is a difficult position to be in, because as a woman you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to own things, and your husband is gone, and then you are pretty much subject to charity, whatever, either your side of the family, or his side of the family, or maybe a close friend, whatever, is able to help you. And in this context, we're not talking about noble folk. We're talking about the people in the village. So your family, for all that they want to help, might not be able to. So by virtue of you being a lace maker, now you have this extra bit of security that you can maybe not afford everything, but you can at least do something. There's something you can do to get a little bit of extra money in the case that your husband is gone, dead, or whatever it is that he's off doing. So I'm trying to not to say so much, but that's that's a little bit of the context of lace making, right? It's got an interesting social history. I think you could go a little further into that, but that was the information I was looking for. Because when you're thinking about the queens, both queens are very they're connected to the idea of lace, right? And we need to remember that at the time the queen wasn't just, you know, a prominent social figure. She was a role model for all the other women in the realm. So if it's okay for the queen to make lace, then it's entirely fine for the village girls to do it and sell it. Okay, the queen obviously doesn't need to sell it, she can just do it as a hobby, but the village girls can do it and sell it, and now that gives them that extra security. Now, we're putting that aside, and we're going through the two types of lace that I found. I didn't really go very in depth. There might be more. I don't know. I don't think so. And there's obviously a lot more to say, but this is just surface information that I used because I was trying to see whether lace had a connection with purity and wisdom. So, needle lace. Okay, remember, two types of lace. Needle lace, which is, you know, as the name says, lace made with a needle, and it's pretty much one needle, one thread. Wait, I have needle and thread, but I don't. Okay, whatever. I'm not gonna go fish it out. But one needle, one lace, and then you create a web with it. You just it's just lace made with needlework. You create a wave with it, go over and over and over, and start creating the lace. And then there's bobbin lace. Sorry, before we go to bobbin lace, let me check. Okay, no, just popular. The only thing extra that I forgot to say is it was very popular in the 16th century, but we will forget that, it's fine. Second type of lace, bobbin lace. Now, bobbin lace is many threads connected to bobbins, and then you shift the bobbins, and with these bobbins you create the lace. And I don't know why I didn't make note of it, but one of them was supposed to be more like fancy, and the other one was, you know, the cheap one that you could get in the market, I guess. Can't be popular with the normal people if everybody can get it, I guess. Okay, second topic of conversation. Okay, we're changing topics. We're done with the lace. The lace is done. And now we're going to the big one. So we need the tablet. Okay, let me unlock it. I know there's a bunch of noise. Usually there's not this much noise. I don't know why. There are so many cars going everywhere today, but they are. Okay, so Victorian era, which corresponds roughly to the Queen Victoria's reign, so around 1820s to 1914. I don't know what I got confused with the way I said it. I think I said it right, but whatever. So in the Victorian era, there's a very heavy emphasis on morality and sex for whatever reason. So there's this kind of interesting mixture of like sex is taboo, but also we won't shut up about sex. But because we won't shut up about sex, we'll make it a little bit like a warning, you know? Very specific as warnings. It's interesting in its relationship between women and sexuality, in the sense that, you know what, let's put a stop to it. Just remember that, let's put a stop to this, and then I'll go back to it when we're talking about the separation of spheres, because I think that makes it make a little more sense. So we're gonna put, just remember, okay, female sexuality, kind of weird, move on. Okay, so what we need to understand is that Victorian society was very hierarchical. It was very much about where you were in society, in the socio I forgot the word. Okay, wherever you were in that little social pyramid, yeah, it not only had to do with how high up you were in society, but the higher up you were in society, the more moral you were. So that's where you start getting, for example, the working houses, because there's this idea that you being poor is it's a moral failure. Okay, it's not just you being unable to put food on the table. It's not just you having a hard year. It's not just your context as a human being that you had this issue and you're trying your best, but it's hard. No, it's a moral failure. So this little pyramid, this hierarchy, is organized by race, religion, and occupation, and gender. Okay, of those, the more important aspects of this are gender and class. So, for example, being, for example, a poor person on the streets versus being a king, the king is morally superior, simply by the fact that he is king versus you being a random person on the streets. And then when you start getting the money involved, the separation of your morality is even more underlined. Okay, so important thing about the Victorian era, I know it's not the same definition that we have today, but for the Victorians, gender is biologically based, and it determines pretty much everything about you. Okay, from your potential to your character. There's no change in that according to them. So the higher up you are in the pyramid, the more moral you are. The more low you are in, the lower you are in this pyramid, the more you have moral failures. The more amoral you are. Okay. Now, remember, important thing, the most important thing, or one of the most important things in this hierarchy, gender. And then there's when the gender ideology of the Victorian era comes into play, and that is the doctrine of the separate spheres. So when some random ass dude in the internet comes and tells you you go to the kitchen and make a sandwich, I wonder if it comes from this, which doesn't really say quite a bit of it doesn't say anything nice about their education, but we didn't have high standards in that regard. Okay. Doctrine of the separate spheres. I think the name just says it, right? The entire concept is that women are meant for one thing, men are meant for another, and these spheres of these two areas where women are supposed to exist and men are supposed to exist are separate. They complement each other in the roles, but they are not. It's not even a Venn diagram, okay? There's no overlap. You're separated completely. And in this, the roles you have men. I think I put men on this side and women on this side. So men are physically strong, while women are physically weak. For men, sex is the most important thing, right? Sex is central to their lives. They do everything for sex. For women, reproduction is the important thing. So for them, it's motherhood. Okay. Men are independent. Women depend on the men in their lives. Men are supposed to be in the public sphere, so they're supposed to be part of the politics. They're supposed to work outside the house. Women are supposed to stay in the private sphere, so they're supposed to stay home, run the household. Because of this, men are supposed to stay. Yeah, they're part of the politics and the job, and they get paid jobs. Not so much about not women. No, okay, you stay at home, you run your household, you do your thing, you raise the kids, and you play supportive role to your men. That's your job. Because sex is so central to a man's life, they get easily distracted by sexual passions. Women have no sexual desires. Okay, you do not want to have sex. You kind of just endure it. And because of this, you're more religious and morally finer. And to me, as an aside, that definition of how a sexual relationship should work makes me very uncomfortable. And that's all I'm about to. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that topic. Because I'm not here to judge anybody. Just. Okay. Let me check if I forgot anything. Okay, so an interesting thing about this is that it's technically tangent and it was not really interesting in to the topic of conversation at hand, is how much the separate spheres doctrine was even a thing that you could do, right? We're talking about a time where most working class families, about 80% or something, according to what I found, would not be able to live this doctrine out. They were not able to do this. They could not survive on a single meal wage. So what ended up happening is that the Victorian era was, sorry, my phone. Okay. The Victorian era was a time of expansion, so you had more working opportunities as well. And some of these working opportunities, because the households were not able to survive through just the man's wage, they were taken on by women. So then you have this interesting situation in which, as a man, not being able to support your woman and your family in its entirety is a failure. And it's not only a failure in your role, it's a moral failure. It actively makes you a worse person. And then as a woman, having to go outside of the household and find work, leaving your kids behind or leaving the house behind, it's also a moral failure. So that was interesting to me. I wonder how that works psychologically. Yeah, it just a fascinating but sad idea to me. The fact that you're doing what you can to survive, And just being poor is already a moral failure. Okay, the fact that you need to step out of this separation of spheres doctrine is already a moral failure. But now you need to do it. So you have this, I imagine this double situation going in your head when you're like, I have my kids, I want to give them the best life that I can, I'm trying my best here, so I'm gonna go out and find this job and do it, but I'm leaving my kids behind, which I imagine is already hard enough, and then being told by society itself, hey, the fact that you're doing that makes you less of a woman, and then have the same thing turn around on the men as well, right? I'm doing the best, I'm working the hardest, I'm trying my best, and that is not even that is enough, so I'm gonna have to ask or accept my wife taking a job, because otherwise we cannot support my kids, and I want my kids to have the best life. And you have the active threat of the workhouses. Your life was pretty much over there if you had to go there, and it was a brutal space, because you're you're not only you're not it's not a shelter thing, you're punishing them for being poor, because that's a moral failure. And by punishing them hard, you're trying to make them better, you're motivating them to not be poor. So I imagine it was incredibly hard on both sides, right? You feel less of a woman because you have to work and leave your kids behind. You feel less of a man because your wife has to go to work. But if you don't do it, then your kids and you might just be pushed into a workhouse. There's no guarantee that you're gonna be in the same place, or you're gonna even be able to be together. So it sounds to me like a very difficult time. I laugh, but I do it because I'm just, I don't know, it made me very sad to investigate this. I could maybe go deeper into it. A part of me wants to, and the rest of me goes like, I'm trying to be happy. This is gonna make me cry and rage. And I don't know how to cut this video on a happy note, so just eat chocolate, okay? That's the best I learned. Tea and chocolate just helps with any kind of sadness. So let's just do that. Let's finish this video with a promise that we're both going to be eating chocolate and drinking some nice tea, and that's it. And if you don't like chocolate, I'm very sorry for you, but you can also pick anything else with, any comfort food that makes you happy. Just do it, because otherwise, if you start thinking about the implications, it's just depressing. Okay, so let's finish it here. I'm happy that I finished this video. I'm very glad that I think it took me way too many months from one video to the other, and I'm happy that this one took not months but like weeks. Hopefully the next one will be the next week and I won't procrastinate as much. And I also think I already have the topic for the next series, because I'm either going to go for the symbology of the egg, which I found very interesting. In the tangents one, there should be a little bit of a conversation about the mythology and symbology of the egg, and then either that or the symbology of the raven, or myths about the raven, I'm not sure. I'm going through different topics. Okay, that's it. I don't know how else to finish it. I am already rambling way too much, so I'm just gonna cut this video here. Have a nice day and all of that. Bye bye.